Okay, so we're tracking your comments, and during the show from 5 to 7, you guys had a lot to say when it came to President Trump announcing the fact that he wants to deploy members of the National Guard to the U.S.-Mexico border. Because he's saying enough is enough, and this is all ahead of what he wants as the wall. So he wants more protection there. And a lot of people were saying, oh my gosh, well, I can't believe he is doing something like that, using our military funding. Is that even legal? You're going to get into that, into the social reaction. But do know that years ago, when I say 2006, I mean, that doesn't sound like it was that long ago, but it was. You know, that was over 10 years ago. And this crazy. Isn't that weird? It President George W. Bush did the same thing. He did deploy 6,000 unarmed National Guard troops, and then 4 years later, in 2010, President Obama deployed troops there as well for different reasons, right? I mean, they all have their own reason as to why it is they're doing this. But for President Trump, he is saying he's going full throttle. This was a surprise to the advisors that he announced to yesterday. And here we are. So what were people saying online?
People were losing their minds. So some people absolutely supportive of this. Chrissy, we have some of their tweets that we can show. People saying, thank you, President Trump, for making our national security the top issue and priority. Others saying, hey, you're being kind of a megalomaniac here, Mr. Trump. Are you sure that it's within your abilities to send the National Guard down to protect us? Other people chiming in with literally articles of the Constitution. One person put out Article 4, Section 4, which says something to the effect that a state should be able to allow, or the state has to protect its citizens from having people invade. And there are many people who believe that having undocumented people come into the state is an invasion. But then we did some more research, and that's where my friend Mr. Karl Mark comes in. And tell me about that article that you sent me.
Well, it's interesting because I think it's not really set in stone as we think of it, and the way that the president thinks about it is that if you can just order the military, in this case it would be the U.S. National Guard, to go and do something, because Ted Lieu, who's he's a congressman for California, he put out in a tweet today that actually the way that he's doing it, it's not an order, it's a request. So then it goes to the governors of the border states, for California, for Arizona, for New Mexico, and for Texas. So he has to ask the governors, will you deploy your state National Guard to go in any capacity that whatever is in the request. So in other words, he is saying that the governor for California does not have to follow this order.
Correct.
The governor for New Mexico is a Republican, Arizona is a Republican, and Texas is a Republican. So I would imagine that they would comply. But then I saw this other thing that the governor from Oregon already put out a tweet that said, if asked, I would not comply, and I would not send National Guard troops from Oregon to the border to help. So she's preemptively, even though Oregon is not a border state. So it's just interesting that I think the way that we understand it and how this has happened in the past, it's not necessarily going to go that way this time.
Got it.
Perhaps.
And President Trump, it's not as though the states would suffer any ramifications if they had their reasons for not complying. So we did reach out to the California governor's office, and they told us this is what we are gathering, that request from 2006 and 2010, like I was mentioning with G.W. Bush and also with Obama, that they will be determining how best they can assist their federal partners. They look forward to more details, including funding, timing, and the ultimate goal. So really, it's just a waiting game at this point. No one's jumping to any conclusions right now. It's not saying this is going to happen, but the fact that President Trump came out and said, this is what I want, and then surprised even his advisors. But that doesn't come as a surprise, because he does that often. You know, says what he wants, tweets what he wants. So,
and have you read what Tori Anderson jumped on and said?
Oh, tell us.
And wouldn't you guess, out of the I'm sorry for giving you a voice. And wouldn't you guess, out of the 4 states, California is the only one that doesn't like this because, Seymour,
they need more illegals.
They have more illegals in the state.
So there are a lot of people. I loved that, and I think we should have creative reenactments of all of these.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's what you
said. No, people are like, that's not my voice. They're going to get mad. It's going to be a whole thing.
I want to reference one of the tweets that came up before, and that was from Rutabaga Jackson, who we said this before.
About if it's legal or illegal.
Cool name. But Rutabaga said that there is one positive thing that could come out of this if you're on the side of not enjoying the fact that the National Guard is going down there. Well, it does create full-time jobs for these men and women that normally are only working part-time, maybe don't have another supplemental income. This is giving them that full paycheck that really helps their families.
Look at you, Rutabaga, with your glasses.
Military,
Right?
all these
Rosy glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I talk a little bit about the border? I'm a geography guy, right?
'Kay.
So let me just tell, and I also lived in California and I lived in Arizona, and when I was in Phoenix, I would drive back and forth all the time along Highway 8, and I've also been along the border many times in Arizona. It's a border state. And I think the one thing I just want to convey here is that the border is not how most people imagine. It is a broad patchwork in how each state, each county, each landowner, because there's private ranches that are the border. And you know, they have property rights as well, and the way that they handle immigration or border crossings is very different. And then you've got Indian reservations. They're a sovereign state as viewed by law, and they have their own jurisdiction about how they want to handle border crossings or border security. So it ends up becoming very complicated immediately. So one solution to try and provide security via the National Guard is an interesting idea that's saying, if we do this one thing, enforce this one way, then it's uniform across the border from California all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. However, when you actually get into the weeds of this, it's a massive patchwork. At the border in San Diego, there's a wall there. It's a massive wall. It's got pillars and columns, and then the fence extends all the way into the ocean.
Wow.
Then you go down a little bit, and then it kind of thins out. Then you've got border towns as you go along Highway 8. Then you've got these rolling hills with these big boulders where at every time I've been on it at least, there's been a border patrol truck at the top of the hill. They've got binoculars. I mean, it is well staffed all the way. And then you get to places like Yuma. There's all these sand dunes. There's a fence across the sand dunes. There's border patrol people everywhere. There's checkpoints. There's all sorts of stuff. Then you get over to Arizona, and Arizona has a big wide border. Some of them are mountain passes. And then this one spot, it's a national monument, the Oregon Pipe National Monument, right up next to the Tohono O'odham Indian Reservation, which, because the tribe is in two different countries, they have a fence that they patrol themselves. So that the members of the tribe can go back and forth to visit various family members. And so far, that has never been contested, that is the arrangement that's been. So my only thing, and not getting political in all this, is as this is trying to go forward, the border is not how you imagine. And my only experience is between California and Arizona. It gets murky as well when you get into New Mexico. You throw in the Rio Grande River all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. It's just different than how you imagine. It is vast, and it's a big patchwork.
Texas as well. A third of Texas border is the Rio Grande as well.
And you can there's huge ranches and national parks that are basically the border, so it just gets weird.
Do we have that interview, one of the answers from the border town mayor in Texas? Do we have that sound? Because I'd like to play it for the viewers. Okay, let's go ahead and roll it. It's his opinion on how this would work or not work.
They don't have the authority or the power to arrest, detain, or question. One thing the federal government excels at is being inept, and this is a perfect example.
So he's saying this has been tried before, it doesn't work. But I mean, what we reported in Morning Blend is that governors from Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico are saying they're going to comply. It's California that we're waiting to hear answers from. But yes, again, going back to the Republican mayor who is saying, why are you wasting your time? Because this doesn't work. It's not like the National Guard guardsmen or women are allowed to touch these people. They're just to be present.
To support.
Right. So I want to say this and address some of the comments that are coming in. One thing that we like to do is foster an energy and a space where we can have educated conversations where both viewpoints are expressed. One thing we don't stand for or tolerate is name calling and racial slurs being thrown around. And I'm seeing some of that come through in the comments. And so I am calling for you to shut it down now. Don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't accept that sort of behavior.
No, absolutely not. And
Because
it's one thing if it's directed toward us, but when it's directed toward groups of people and to people in our conversation, it's just not what we're here for.
Not at all.
Because if you are educated in your point of view and you want to get it across, the second you use terms like that, then the people that may be receptive to learning something new or view it from a different way, it's shut down because they're going to start to assume all these other things that may or may not be true about you. So if you start using those words, you're not helping your argument.
No, and we're adults here, and if we want to teach the next generation, how to have civil conversations and push forward, and you don't have to agree with anything that we say, but you can voice your opinion. That's what this is for. We want the other side, so that maybe we can learn a thing. We don't know everything. We're news people. We don't know everything.
Make fun of my hair or my ill-applied makeup all day long.
If we
Leave the
wanted-
people on the group alone.
Moving forward, it's just if we want to teach this next generation, we're so anti-bullying as a society, yet we sit here and bully. And I say we because we're all part of in this together. And please just stop. Let's be adults.
So just addressing some of the other comments that are coming through, because there are a lot. Marianne Nelson is saying, enforce laws already on the books, not that hard.
Stay focused?
Exactly. Stay focused. Don't do more than you need to be doing. Keep your blinders on.
But as president, isn't that what he's supposed to? Isn't that what he's supposed to do?
I think he's supposed to have our national security as
which
top
he
priority.
thinks this is priority and thinks this is the way to do it.
Exactly. And so you can't fight him on that. If that is what he thinks and this is the way he thinks that you should go about it, a lot of people voted for him because of this.
Right.
But now it's the matter of how long would it take to make something like this happen? We've already seen proposals for many walls.
The 8 prototypes down in San Diego when he went to read. He's seen them.
But years. And say he doesn't get reelected again, this bad boy isn't being created in his term and could be shut down by the next president that
Which
comes
is why
in.
it's like, this is I want this to happen now because everything is a process.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more stories just like this one, all you got to do is hit subscribe.